while you were at the quarantine ward at Bellevue, Dolores Barone saved your life by giving you a transistor radio before your 11th birthday. And you discovered that you shared a birthday with a man named Frank Sinatra. Sinatra had a very similar upbringing to yours. He grew up in Hoboken. You found inspiration from that. Many people in the newer generation don't know about the impact and influence of Old Blue Eyes. So what I want to ask from you is, can you paint the picture and can you talk about the aura of Frank Sinatra? What was he like? What was the chairman of the board like?
Well, the interesting thing about what you're saying is that when I did turn on the radio at 6 o'clock in the morning, they were already talking about the chairman of the board, Frank Sinatra, and I didn't know anything about him. But that's how I found out he was from humble beginnings in Hoboken. His mother was a barmaid. His father worked Todd Shipyard. And he inspired me because he's an Italian-American. Now he's doing 5 shows, 6 shows a day in New York Paramount, 10 blocks from me. I mean, even, my relationship right till he died, which is very sentimental with me, because I was one of the last few people to sit with him. Yeah. But from that transition from listening to him on the radio, and then I met him 3 years later, because I'm working for Frank Costello, and one of my stops to pick up envelopes and drop-off envelopes was the Copacabana. Yeah. And I got there like 5:30, and there was lines outside already. And I walk into the basement. That's how I went in all the time through the kitchen. And there he was doing a sound check. I couldn't believe it. This is a guy I've been listening to every day on my little transistor radio. Yeah. I still have that transistor radio. It's here,
You have it?
Oh, no, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that when I saw him, I didn't realize the power of Mr. Costello. Because when I walked in the room, Jules Bodell, who was the manager and owner on paper, Frank looked at him and looked at me to say, like, who's this kid? And he said, oh, no, that's Costello's boy. I felt 6 feet tall. And he kept on singing. So I sat down. I listened to 3 or 4 songs. And then he put a cigarette in his mouth. I went over and I lit it. And I said, you saved my life, Mr. Sinatra. He said, how'd I do that? And I told him. And when I was telling him, again, not realizing what I was saying and the importance of what I was saying, I said, well, I was in Bellevue. My birthday was coming. And Mr. Gambino sent me a transistor radio. Is Mr. Gambino like Carlo Gambino? I said, yeah. He said, okay. So I keep telling the story. And I started listening to him and, and he inspired me to get out of there. And, I was part of Jonas Salk's experiment. And in 3 years, I walked out. Not walked out, man, I limped out, but I got out. He said, what's your name? I said, the Kid. He said, no, what's your real name? I said, I can't tell you that. He said, why? I said, well, Mr. Costello told me not to tell anybody my real name. He said, wait a minute. Carlo Gambino gave you a transistor radio. Costello names you the Kid. He said, maybe I should get to know you. You sound more important than I am. And we hit it off from that day.
You had a very intimate relationship with Frank Sinatra. You hear so many interesting stories about him. He could be your best friend, but he could also be your worst enemy.
Oh, yeah.
There are so many people who talk about how emotional he was. Some people called him sensitive, insecure, bipolar. Ava Gardner said he used to behave like a woman as well. He was an interesting person, if you really listen to the stories.
I mean, he was very complex, which just me having a friendship with him, I had to learn, because once he started drinking, I'd say, good night, Frank, see you. Because that's when he's going to go bipolar.
Right.
And then what happened also, I don't know if you found this out in your research, when he married Mia Farrow, he moved 5 blocks up.
Right here?
Right here.
Yeah.
So every time he had a fight with her, he'd come down here and I said, oh my God, I got to get out of here. I wouldn't answer the bell sometimes.
It's so interesting, right? He was one of the biggest stars of the 20th century. And then for him to still feel a bit insecure, so surprising. Like, success is no marker of like how you feel within yourself.
Well, it's interesting. I saw the differences, though, of some of the women that he had. I mean, here you have Ava Gardner, one of the most powerful women in the world, didn't need him. And he fell in love with her. And most people don't even know this story about his wife, Nancy. Nancy loved Frank. They were childhood sweethearts in the neighborhood. And when she knew what Ava Gardner meant to him, She gave him a divorce. And she moved her and the kids to Holmby Hills just so he could be a father to the kids. And he could be close to Ava Gardner. I never had a woman like that in my life. I had a girlfriend, they wanted to throw furniture at me. But it was, again, that was another lesson in life with him. And as I said to you, I was with him the last few weeks of his life. His wife, Barbara, at that time, cut everybody off. So I just went to the house one day because I knew his routine. At 2:30, he came out by the pool. And I went through the yard and I went to see him. What do I care about her? I knew her all her life, and not that she had a great reputation, so I'm going to respect her. I respect her because of him. But we talked and I knew he was on his way out. See, what I knew also, and nobody can understand it, because he's such a perfectionist, but even when he was giving me my singing lessons and all of that stuff, to watch him deteriorate on stage, which he was always a perfectionist. And I found out why later, because he was singing with monitors that were feeding him the lyrics. The deal they made with him and let him live was that he would sing for them until he died.
Yeah.
So even when his voice was going, he'd still fill the casinos. That's why he was there. And that made sense to me now because I knew this guy. He didn't need money. He had like 6 Budweiser distribution. I mean, he had money everywhere.